This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Black Friday week deals now.
The holiday season officially starts when you get that first card in the mail. Shutterfly makes it easy to add more meaning to the everyday with hundreds of holiday card designs that can be personalized in seconds with your favorite photos from this year. Select your greeting, customize the color, and even add little extras like personalized foil to make a holiday card that really shines. Enjoy 40% off with code SMILE40 at Shutterfly.com and send something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Have you ever seen a trailer that was so cool, so interesting, that you immediately made up your mind on the spot to watch that film? And then, have you ever left the theater or stopped the DVD and questioned if the movie advertised was the same one you just watched? Well, we're in the same boat as you, but we're still going to see if Freaked is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies, and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. And hello to all of our listeners in Falkenstein, Germany, and around the world. You know, every now and then, as we're looking at movies to cover for this podcast, we'll start to talk about actors and their other films and their filmography. And recently, my lovely wife Carrie and I were talking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Keanu Reeves, no problem, he's got a great filmography. But they were like, well, what else has Alex Winter done? So we looked up his filmography, and then we stumbled upon this film, and we're like, what the heck is Freaked? So then we watched the trailer, and we're like, this looks so cool and out there. We need to watch it. The minute we realized that it qualified for the podcast. So, everyone, say hello to my lovely wife, Carrie.
Hey, how are ya? Let's get freaked.
In your mind, you just heard like the thousands of people around the world listening going, hi, Carrie, and like all as one.
Right?
It's like when you walk into class, like everyone say hello to Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
It's not like I'm Brooke Shields or anything.
No. You're better.
I don't have my own talk show.
No, you don't. But you're on your own podcast, so that kind of qualifies. We'll take it. Okay, so...
Although it didn't end well.
No, it didn't. Oh, you're going to spoiler right off the bat? Dear listeners, spoilers like a mofo. You're supposed to warn them.
Now you have to watch the movie and find out. That wasn't a spoiler. It was kind of a tease. It was like...
No.
Find out how it doesn't end well.
Okay, but you kind of like dropped it like it was like,
boom.
Right? It's supposed to be like, but things didn't end well for Brooke Shields. How? Find out as you watch 1993's Freak. No. You're just like, hey, what did it end well for? Well, what?
I'm writing my own trailerize.
That is almost as casual as the old lady in the room going, the doctors got back to me. I definitely have cancer. And no one reacts to it.
Oh, you did.
I did. I brought up the room.
You dropped a room reference.
Episode 100 of this podcast.
Way to trigger me right off the bat.
Okay, so let's get back to talking about Freaked for a second here, okay? So we watched this trailer. Your initial thoughts on the trailer as we watched it?
Oh my God, I was like, this looks like a very Carrie movie and we have to cover it. And we've been talking about watching this movie.
Oh yeah, no. It's been on the whiteboard for a while. Okay, dear listeners, bear with me here. So let me explain. When you write something on a whiteboard with dry erase marker, it erases off pretty fast. unless you leave it on the whiteboard for at least 7 or 8 months, then you got to get out like the spray that they use for whiteboards. And yeah.
This one's like permanently etched.
Not anymore, because we're here recording it now. And did I not promise that we would drop this episode before the end of 2024?
True.
I did.
Here we are.
Made my promises. But we still have to talk about this film.
You've only got like 8 weeks left.
Right? Don't worry. We got time.
Whew,
but
close.
before we actually get to talk, in depth about this film, it is time to take this 1993 Alex Winter film and trailerize it.
Oh, I can't wait.
Once one has time traveled so they can ace their history presentation, then done the impossible and beaten death at their own game, there's only one thing left to do. Go to South America and become part of the worst freak show in history. Alex Winter writes, stars in, and directs his own poor life choices in Freaked. He's Ricky Coogan, a celebrity who will promote anything for the right price, like some weird crypto bro. Now, on his way to be a spokesperson for Zygrot 24, he discovers what it is he's actually signed up for. Now he's a hideous freak and forced to perform for people looking for a bad time, much like the movie's audience. It's a film that will answer the eternal question, just how good were the drugs in 1993? If this movie is any indication, really freaking good. Alex Winter stars in Freaked. Rated PG-13 for prosthetics and goo.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff put on people's faces and stuff coming out of people's faces in this film. You know, right? You're watching someone and you're like, there's something coming out of his head. Oh, Carrie, you have a bit of a gag reflex. You have a bit of a you have a sympathetic reaction to things coming out of people. So this film, once we really got into it, how hard was it to get through some parts of this film?
Okay, truth. The the reaction of his friend and the amount of fake vomit got me more than, let's just say, Beast Boy's better half?
Copious amounts of postulic fluid coming out of his head.
But what gets me about that is that it was comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was almost like the pus button was activated like just at the right moment for comedic value. Like, it was perfect. That was funny.
Yeah, this is kind of like the gross up version of You Can't Do That on Television, where you say the wrong thing and you get slimed. Apparently, Alex Winter says the right thing and everyone else gets slimed in this film.
Oh.
Right now, there are some people laughing in reminiscence at that reference, and there are other people going, "What the hell is You Can't Do That on Television?" Look it up. Trust me, we're talking peak Canadian television here.
I'm James McComb, reporting live from home in my bathrobe and slippers. Tonight, we're talking Dunkin' Polar Peppermint Coffee. Gene's here with the latest. Gene, do you copy?
The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write 1 million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
But let's get into who is in this film. The movie stars Alex Winter, Megan Ward, Michael Stoyanov, Randy Quaid, Brooke Shields, Morgan Fairchild, Bobcat Goldthwait, Mr. T, and Alex Zuckerman. It was directed by Alex Winter and Tom Stern. They both also wrote the film along with Tim Burns. The movie had a budget of $12 million. The gross, not even close. Worldwide, this film had a box office gross of $29,296 only.
The fact that it was in theaters floors me. Like, just surprise.
I'm glad you said that it was in theaters, plural, because technically speaking, you're right. When it was released on the October 1st, 1993 weekend, it debuted at number 16 with a grand total of $6,957. But there is a giant asterisk on this stat because it debuted in not one, but 2 theaters only.
Oh.
So that means that this film actually brought in a per screen average of $3,478. That is more than other films that debuted, including For Love or Money and A Bronx Tale that weekend. So on a per screen average, it actually debuted, like it did fairly well.
Where? Like, was it a target audience?
I'm not exactly sure exactly where what those 2 theaters were, right? For the record, the number 1 movie at the box office that weekend was the debut of Malice with $9.2 million, but the per screen average was $6,451. So really, Freaked is only half of that in 2 theaters.
But you know what? I think the timing. You mentioned October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
This is very much a campy Halloween, like pseudo fantastical monster movie, if you will. So the timing, I mean, as everyone's getting geared up to Halloween, it was kind of perfect.
No. And I have a feeling that if they waited like a week or 2, and maybe it would have gotten a better reception. But I mean, you take a look at the films that were debuting that weekend. Forget the other ones that are in theaters. The ones that are actually debuting on that weekend. I mentioned Malice, which debuted at number 1. Cool Runnings debuted at number 3. And we're talking, Jamaican bobsled team here. For Love or Money debuted at number 6. A Bronx Tale at number 7. The only other film debuting that week was M. Butterfly, which debuted just ahead of Freaked at number 15. But I want to put this in a comparison here. M. Butterfly debuted in only 3 theaters.
Okay.
But the per screen average for M. Butterfly was $19,000 per theater. Well ahead of what Freaked did.
Okay, but how about putting this movie, into more theaters and seeing how it did?
Well, see, that would have been an ideal situation, but there was actually a problem during the film or during the making of this film. The original producer was actually fired by 20th Century Fox mid-stream, mid-production, and the new head that came in wasn't really happy with the budget that was allotted for this film, and he didn't really like this film at all. So, yeah, there was some studio interference, I guess, at that point. But that didn't stop Freaked from getting noticed. At the 1994 Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Makeup, lost to Army of Darkness.
Okay, that's fair.
Right? At the 1993 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, Randy Quaid was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, lost to Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, which, you know what? Yes.
I do have a challenge with that, though. I don't feel that Jurassic Park is in the horror movie genre.
No. It's just, I mean, keep in mind, the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards also encompassed more than just horror, right? Megan Ward was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, lost to Embeth Davidtz in Army of Darkness. The film was nominated for Best Screenplay, lost to The Dark Half. Kevin Kiner was nominated for Best Soundtrack, lost to Army of Darkness. Was nominated for Best Makeup FX, lost to Army of Darkness. And it was nominated for Best Limited Release or Direct-to-Video Film, lost to Dead or Alive. At the 1993 Stige Catalonian International Film Festival, it was nominated for Best Film but lost to Orlando, starring Tilda Swinton and Billy Zane. But at the 1994 Fanta Festival, all the freaks in the film won for Best Actor. And at the 1995 Gerardmer Film Festival, won the grand prize for video, shared that award with Fatherland and Heavenly Creatures. So it actually did win awards, which, bravo, guys, bravo. But the reason why we are here, not just because we randomly check out films in people's filmographies, watch a trailer and go, ooh, let's do that one. It's the critics. Over at Rotten Tomatoes, the film has a tomatometer of 56%. So it's a borderline film by our qualifications, but let's get the other numbers in here. The popcorn meter is at 66%. At IMDb, it has a 6.4 rating for a 64%. At Metacritic, it sits at 58. Letterboxd has a 3.6 out of 5 star rating for a 72%. And at the Movie Database, sits at an even 60% for an aggravated aggregate of 62.6%. So across the metrics, it's a college pass, which is actually one of our higher rated films that we have done on this podcast. But I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of surprised by some of these numbers because I don't know. Like, you take a look at Letterboxd, I don't think it's a 72% film. I don't. I can agree maybe with 64, maybe 60, 72. I don't know. Like, your thoughts when you hear these numbers, Gary? Are we in the ballpark, or are we too high, or are we too low?
Is this based on audience or critic?
The aggregate, so all numbers across the board,
right, equals
62.6%.
As an average.
Okay,
where are you getting the 70?
72 is from Letterboxd. It has 3.6 stars out of 5, giving it that 72%.
Based on what, critic or
no? This is
audience.
This is everyone voting in on Letterboxd.
Okay, so this is an audience vote.
Exactly.
Okay.
Critics be damned on this one.
You know what? I think so. Like, I don't know. I mean, is 70 too high? It depends on what you're going for. If you want to just put your brain on serious vacation and just laugh at you know, they were clearly, the actors were having so much fun making this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a movie you could at all take seriously. And I was here for it, you know, like it was fun. It was fun and it was creative and it was so out there that I totally dig on having a concept that is not cookie cutter. And this is so far removed. Like there were times where I was like, how could this get any weirder? Oh, okay. They went there. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it did. It got a little stranger and you know what? I'm fine with that. I am here for it.
See, you sound like you hit some level of Stockholm syndrome about halfway through the film where you're like, okay, we're going to go further down the road. I'm going to get, okay, further we go. Like, you feel like a Smurf going, are we there yet, Papa Smurf? No, we're not there yet.
Well, wasn't that the drive to get to
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the breakdown of this film and figure out exactly where these scores are coming from. Because I'm not going to lie, when I look at the critics, right, 56%, I have an idea of what they're looking at for this film, but let's see how it is as we dig deep. We start with Alex Winter as Ricky Coogan. Your thoughts?
Oh my God. I am such a big fan of him. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was because his role as Bill was just so damn iconic.
Mm-hmm.
So even to see him in this movie, it's like, he's just so good at being so goofy, but like not in a bad way.
No.
But it's quite a sincere, lighthearted, like he could deliver a line and then just give that like, it's almost like a lip twitch that he does. That's like, it's like classic. Did you notice like in this role, especially when he was in that business meeting.
Yes.
At the beginning when he was being
before he gets
hired for this gig.
Before he becomes the Beast Boy, which again, dear listeners, spoilers like a mofo, but go on.
Right. But I mean, the movie came out, what?
90.
Oh, I don't want to do the math.
31 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? It was fun and it was a wild ride.
I mean, there were certain things that I needed to wrap my head around as we were watching this and basically accept that this was the way it was going to be. I don't know whose accent Alex Winter was trying to pull off with this character, but I'm expecting to hear Bill S. Preston Esquire, and then he's talking like this, and it's like, oh my God, what the hell are you doing? But I got used to it.
Actor.
Yeah, yes, he's an actor acting.
He was acting like an actor.
Yeah, but still, like it took me a bit to get over that cocky attitude that he was copying at the beginning of the film. He lost it once he became the Beast Boy, and I was fine with it then. But right off the bat, you have Alex Winter playing a wholly unlikable character. Like, did you not want Megan Ward to just smack the snark off his face?
Well, I thought it was funny that she was so all about like smacking his friend around that, you know, like you're like, well, why are you not smacking him up? Because I don't know. There was that kind of like almost like a underlying crush there that it just had to build.
But you see, the thing is, when we first meet her, she is pissed off at Ricky Coogan for like promoting this Zygrot 24 thing, that this compound that is highly unethical and very dangerous and apparently ruining the environment, and down with Coogan and down with Zygrot. And then he's like, oh, cute girl, get me in some bandages. I'm gonna mac my way in there. No, like literally, it isn't until he becomes this deformed freak, thanks to this Zygrot 24, that you start to feel for the character. Because at first I'm just like, this guy, give him the entire vat of goo and let him suffer, because he's not a likable character.
But I don't know. I think maybe that was kind of the turnaround point. It was like, yeah, you kind of, at first you don't feel so bad for him, but then you kind of do, because he was he was clearly used to, he's an actor and, you know, used to landing roles based on his looks.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly doesn't have that power anymore.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, because he is put on display as this beast boy, and he's set to perform, right? Like he's forced into it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
The actor comes out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind him and all that. And I think, as a director, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, I think as a director, he filled the role very well. I didn't like the Ricky Coogan character until about halfway through. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be like. But it took me a little bit to warm up to him. Michael Stoyanov, who played his buddy Eddie that came down with him and then was blended in two with Julie. Your thoughts on him?
I thought he was like the perfect kind of like counterpart, right? Like he balanced out how unlikable you were saying Alex Winter's character was.
See, I don't know, because I found him to be like, it's like he's the turtle of Entourage to Ricky Coogan.
I know, but Turtle was the likable one.
Was he though? Or was he more like Johnny Drama? I don't know. Hard to say. But the thing is, like, and the minute the bandages come off and the guys is, the jig is up and Coogan has, blown his cover. Now Megan Ward realizes that she's in the car with the enemy. He's like, sorry for your loss, girl, but hey, I'm still hit. Like, dude, feel the van for a second here, okay? Because,
you know what, though? I mean, clearly that was their dynamic, though. Like, they were just like two spoiled kids, right? In a privileged position.
A very, very privileged position.
And very much used to getting whatever they want. I mean, the scene on the plane, right? Where they're just literally like, sipping their champagne. Well, they've just done horrible things. I don't want to say too much, but
yeah, no.
They're not good. You're right. They're not good people. They're not,
But Ernie doesn't even get a redemption arc. Like, you at least see, Ricky's kind of turnaround and kind of coming to grips with the idea that, he has to go from like being a star to rallying his fellow freaks into trying to save themselves. Ernie's just getting slapped around by his better half. Let's be honest.
I think that's the point that made him most likable, is that his better half was indeed, I think, a pretty good person, right? Like, well, I mean, she had a good heart.
I mean, let's talk about Megan Ward for a second then, who played Julie. So let me explain. So Ernie and Julie have the zygote put on them together, and then they kind of blend into like a half and half person, as opposed to being horribly deformed and disfigured like Ricky was. And this became like a two-headed person with two very distinct personalities. It made sense to pair Ernie with Julie, because you couldn't really do it with Ricky. Ricky needed to be able to do his own thing and to be able to help rally all the freaks. The two of them together, Ernie and Julie, play off each other well. And we've talked about Megan Ward on the show before, because of course she was in PCU. So yeah, the 90s were good for Megan Ward. But I mean, the thing is, when we meet her, she clearly, preceding her PCU stardom, was there to protest. She's there to protest.
We're not gonna protest.
Gutter is still a tool. But all of a sudden we get to like this weird freak show carnival place, and she's excited. Like, bring on the freak show. Like, there's something there. They're like, she seemed way too happy to go see a freak show. So,
you know what, though? I think maybe that was part of it, is like, the whole maybe hippie mindset of like protesting and damn the man, and loving and accepting of all creatures, big and small, and all the freaks and all the people, right? Like, I think that was just her, like, being, again, super accepting and loving of everyone.
But the thing is, and maybe this is just movie tropism, okay? So bear with me here. When we meet Julie, she's got the red beret on, and the minute you put a beret on somebody, they've all of a sudden become like that militant protester. It's not like she's all like tie-dyed and sunshine and flowers and whatnot. No, she's got the beret on. She's there. She means business.
Okay, but until she sees a wounded, body cast wrapped up, bleeding through.
Oh, she's got a good heart. There's no question there.
Like that was the turnaround, is that she just wanted to care for this person who needed help, who clearly needed assistance. He had fallen in his body cast and couldn't get up. And so she wanted to care for him. And that was very much, I think, the character, that was what drives her, is to take care of people. And the fact that she was conjoined I think it was absolutely perfect.
I think the other thing too is that, and maybe I'm asking too much of a film about genetically deformed freaks thanks to a weird compound, in a film that was released in 1993. But there wasn't really much backstory given to these characters. Like, they're just kind of there, and then you have to kind of accept what they are right off the bat. Like, this film doesn't ease you into a damn thing.
Okay. But two things to that. The first thing is how they, like, cinematically, how they showed the conjoined two bodies was brilliant. How they, at one point, the two of them fall back while doing a dance on the stage. And it was like, wow, it actually looks really cool how they, I don't know, put together maybe the prosthetic or the body.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the camera trickery that's going on in this. So
it was brilliant.
Since we're talking about this then, because this is very much also a character of the film, is that the makeup effect work and the prosthetics and what they did in order to make the freaks look like freaks. Like, I think kudos needs to be given. And I think this is where the majority of your positive audience and critics score ratings are coming from, is that while you may be sitting there and from a plot perspective going, what the fuck is going on? You cannot deny that this film, like, you see where the $12 million budget went. Like, they put a lot of money into making this look good. This is why people always say, go with real practical effects, because it will stand the test of time. We're watching a 31-year-old film, and we're sitting there, despite our thoughts on the characters and the script and their backstory, 31 years later, and the makeup effects in this film still hold up today.
Well, except for Dogman. I thought that was so Ches. Like, it was literally like, let's put like a werewolf mask and we'll do some like shaded facial makeup. Like, we'll just kind of, and then put maybe the werewolf gloves.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And we'll put him in a suit.
Yeah. So that is, of course, Ortiz, the dog boy, as played by Keanu Reeves in an uncredited role. So
uncredited. You've got to wonder. You know what? And I think that was actually really smart.
Yes.
Because otherwise people would be going to see this expecting a Bill and Ted reprise. And it's nothing like Bill and Ted.
It's not a cheap casting gimmick. Like, yes, Keanu Reeves is there. Yes, he's helping out his bud, but he's doing it in a completely and utterly uncredited role, because you're right. Like, people would be expecting Bill and Ted Part 3, which years later they would regret that want, but still.
But so cool that he did that. And I think that just goes to show that's the kind of person Keanu, at least portrays to be. Like, he's just a really nice guy and clearly helping his friend out. And how cool is that,
Yeah. No, I mean, there are some times when clearly two people are cast together in a film to kind of bank on a previous film that they were in together. just this year alone, a film came out that does the same thing. It's like, all right, so these two were in a film together. Let's put them back together, and because people are going to want to watch it. The movie's called Here, and it stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, pairing them again for the first time since Forrest Gump. So we got Forrest Gump and we got Jenna back in a film together, and it sits at a 36% Rotten Tomatoes score. And people, because they're like, nope, it's not happening. Here, I think it was smart. I think it was very smart. I think it's one of those things where had you done it, you would have put an expectation on the film. And I think you would have had that weight of expectation weighing it down.
Or do you think it was maybe kind of, I don't know, Keanu's agent that was like, yeah, we've got some bigger projects coming up that maybe you don't want to associate yourself with this one. Maybe the 2 theater release kind of, I don't know, lower budget movie maybe had a huge role in that maybe, you know, it was a smart business move on his part, on his agent's part, to advise him to maybe not associate himself with the project.
Okay, well, let's put things into perspective here, okay? So this film came out in 1993, and in that same year, he was also in Much Ado About Nothing. Okay, so we got like some Shakespearean action going on. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues and Little Buddha. But in 1992, he was in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and in 1994, Speed came out. So
when was The Matrix?
The Matrix was all the way later on in 1999.
Okay.
But, you know, there are like Much Ado About Nothing. I mean, we're talking like a classic play here brought to the big screen. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues was got a lot of critical acclaim. And if the new head of Fox coming in doesn't like Freaked, maybe it is one of those things where it's like, you know, maybe we should not put him on the bill. But again, it's one of those things where if just 2 years after Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, you see Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves together again you expect it to be an Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves film, but it's not that. So smartly, he's not listed on the cast. Randy Quaid, who played Elijah C. Scuggs, the mastermind behind the Freaks. Your thoughts on him?
Oh my God, I absolutely loved him in this role. He was so frighteningly good at what he was doing in this role. Like he was just, you kind of don't, he was so charming and yet so creepy. All in one. Is that even a thing? Can you be charming and creepy at the same time?
I mean, I think if anyone can do it, Randy Quaid.
He pulled
maybe.
it off.
But I mean, here's the thing, and we need to stress this again. When we talk about these films, we talk about the actors in the roles, and more often than not, we're talking about the role in general. We are not talking about the long list of legal problems that Randy Quaid has found himself in over the years. So we are literally just talking about a small little film in 1993 where he plays a madman turning people into freaks. So understand that Elijah C. Scuggs was going to be a little off the rails to begin with, right? He's here in the middle of South America, and he's making these freaks, and he's clearly in line working with the EES company, which is everything except shoes, which I don't know
Yeah, again, it's so incredibly out there. And he was literally what you would expect of like a ringmaster at a circus or a freak show. Like he was absolutely perfectly the freak leader.
Yeah, he kind of, without the makeup and whatnot, was kind of like a Captain Howdy from like the Devil's Rejects. Like that kind of weird, kind of very like you said, ringmaster-esque kind of clown, kind of a little bit of psycho in there as well. Like he's turning people into like monsters basically, and then putting them on display in a freak show. all with corporate backing. Like, it. Don't try to wrap your head around the plot too much. You will hurt yourself. Just know that the film was made in 1993 and feels very much like a 1993 production. But the thing is, this film has been turned into kind of a bit of a cult classic.
I can see that. I could totally see this being like released in small theaters, maybe again around
a review theater, yeah.
Around Halloween.
Like, apparently the creators of Ren and Stimpy freaking love this film. And
that
makes sense.
I would love to see this as a shadow box show.
Like a shadow cast? Yeah. That would be very, very interesting. I don't know if I'd also want to see it as a musical, but maybe that's just me like really wanting to mess with the gods. But still, regardless of. Alex Zuckerman, who played Stewie Gluck. Now, if you want to know how little backstory some of these characters have, this character out of nowhere falls out of the overhead luggage compartment. It's Ricky Coogan's super fan. Your thoughts on the kid?
Oh my God. You know what? I thought it was so funny, like so incredibly funny and in poor taste funny how, I don't want to say too much, but how he comes to his demise and how it's just kind of like, okay, oh well. Like, it was funny.
Like, I mean, here's the thing. He's such a big Ricky Coogan fan, but he can't get over the idea that he's, promoting this Zygrot 24. And then, like, he gets sucked out of a plane. He crashes in the middle of a field. He gets thrown through a bunch of glass panes as he's trying to sell his stuff. Like, so much happens to this poor kid.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and, I need to kind of put this out there. 1993 films were a little on the loud side, and this film was definitely loud in its production as far as some of the camera angles and a lot of screaming and a lot of like, kind of moments. Alex Zuckerman, and we're talking a kid actor here, Alex Zuckerman actually held his own with this and became like almost the embodiment of physical comedy in this film. Like,
very much
so much bad happens to Stewie, and you're like, what more can we do? Oh, we're throwing him through windows. Okay. Oh, no. Now he's got the Zygrot on him too. And he's become like this big, weirdly adorable, but like monster hand size freak.
I almost saw him as like a Garbage Pail Kid.
Oh God, we're not bringing that movie
rendition
up again, are we? Haven't I suffered enough already? You said I triggered you earlier and now you're getting me back.
Picture
Ooh.
the card.
No.
Yeah.
No. Although he did kind of look like a Garbage Pail Kid.
He totally did.
Why would you bring that film up again?
Because he looked like a Garbage Pail Kid.
Yeah, look, but my poor heart, my poor psyche. Like, I'm not a young man anymore here. Why are you going to do this to me? Oh, dear listeners, feel free to listen to our episode of the Garbage Pail Kids movie and then proceed to not watch the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Trust me. William Sadler, who played Dick Bryan, the CEO of EES, Everything Except Shoes. And if the name William Sadler sounds familiar, we are talking Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Your thoughts on Dick Bryan?
He was good. I mean, you know what? Yeah, like you just knew, right? He's selling the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he was so good at being so slimy. Literally
and figuratively. I mean, this was one of those weird little comedic moments that I loved in this film, where they're at the board meeting and like it's him running the show and he's got like all these 4 like old cronies that are at the table too, and their hands are tied to strings. So when he's looking for a unanimous vote, he pulls the string so all the old people have to raise their hands. I'm like, this is brilliant. I love this. This is classic. But the thing is, he's a slimy CEO and he gets his comeuppance as he should. But then he and the other execs that get slimed with the Zygrot turn into a shoe, a genetic freak with arms and eyes shoe.
Everything but the shoe.
And now they're shoes. And who? But let's talk about the freaks for a second, because this is kind of where the heart of the film is. Like at this point, aside from Ricky, and we have talked about Ortiz, the dog boy, is played by Keanu Reeves in an uncredited role, but the freaks are kind of the heart of the film. Let's start with Sockhead, as voiced by Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh my God. Can I just, I want to just summarize that each and every one of them had such a touching backstory and clearly are now just suffering from Stockholm Syndrome that I literally want to just save them all. And, you know, much like in Garbage Pail Kids, you want to just open the gates and release them into just bring them back into society.
I want to open the plane door and let them fly down to their untimely depth.
Oh,
no,
you're cold.
I am.
They were good people.
Were they?
Turned into, well, yes.
Oh, the freaks were, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought we were talking about the Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh, well, they were, okay.
Let them follow their death. The freaks we keep.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like
no,
you wanted to off the freaks. I'm like, why?
Sockhead was great.
They were great.
How weird is it that like of all the makeup work and all that, I'm like, more Sockhead. And that really has everything to do with the voice of Bobcat Goldthwait. Like, let's be honest, 90s comedy and Bobcat Goldthwait, like that is a marriage right there, because you hear his voice and instantly you're like, Bobcat.
And the funny thing is, you don't even need to see him in this. It's like, oh,
and you don't.
Yeah,
it's a sock. If anyone ever wondered how Mick Foley made a sock into a wrestling character, Bobcat Goldthwait walked so Mick Foley could run.
Love it.
Right? But
I love it.
But it's Bobcat. Like, the fact that his voice is in there. I mean, there's only really two voices from that time that would have worked for this. Bobcat Goldthwait and Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah.
One of those two has to be the voice. And we got Bobcat. And, like, Sockhead was cute. And the fact that when they take the sock off and it's just a hand and stick it up, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
And everyone was so disappointed. There's a hand in there.
There's a hand in there. Are we missing the fact that the hand is where the head should be?
Right? And how is there a third arm?
Right?
Coming out of the neck?
Then there's the worm, played by Derek McGrath, another Police Academy veteran, because he was Butterworth in Police Academy 4 Citizens on Patrol.
You know what? He was fantastic. I think as far as the costumes go, this one blew my mind because of how encompassing it is. It literally looks like almost like an inflatable worm costume that's just kind of surrounding him, and how he was able to move like incredibly seamlessly. Like there was like no, I mean, it had to be very uncomfortable as a costume to wear, and there was no challenge for him to move freely. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, there were one or two moments where you could actually see the feet underneath the costume, but you know, like I'm willing to overlook that, you know, because Derek McGrath is actually really, really good in the role. And I love the fact that he's like the one freak that doesn't get turned back to normal, because not everyone likes macaroons. You have to watch the film. I'm sorry, but you have to watch the film. But because, you know, he puts down that prim and proper British accent, it's like, it's brilliant. Like, he's a bookworm. I get it. I understand. Perhaps the least expensive freak costume there, Mr. T as the bearded lady.
Now, is it Miss T?
I don't know what his pronoun would be in that role. I do not know. But I mean, like, this is, I mean, okay, you get the bearded lady. I get it. Really, the joke is it's Mr. T in a dress is what it is, right? I mean, that's the comedy. It's like a one-note joke, but I'm glad they didn't like lean on it too much. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, it's Mr. T. Oh, hey, it's Mr. T. Hey, he's in a dress, but he's got a beard anyway, so it's not like he really had to do much.
I think I love that. It just shows how Mr. T doesn't take himself too seriously, and he is such an icon that he can literally do anything. He could take any role, and because he's Mr. freaking T, like he didn't need a freak costume.
Can Mr. T take any role? Like, can you
Mr. freaking T?
Can you picture Mr. T doing Shakespeare?
I would love to see it.
Like Mr. T backing up Julius Caesar?
I pity thy fool.
Ain't no one gonna come in here and start slapping my boy Caesar on the Ides of March. I pity you, fool.
No.
I love it. I would pay to see that.
Mr. T does freaking Shakespeare.
Make it so.
Oh, good dear God. What are we trying to manifest into the world? Like, if this happens, there's going to be people like lining up at our social media accounts going, what have you done? What evil have you wrought upon this world? And then they watch it and go, they were right. Mr. T can do anything. There were a few other freaks, like where the costume was perfect. Like the cow man was good. But I need to bring up one because they came out and I couldn't stop. At this point, I had to stop. Like, my brain literally like jumped out of my head going, what the is going on here? And I'm talking about Michael Gilden and Joseph S. Griffo as and I can't believe I'm putting this sentence together, the machine gun toting Rastafarian eyeballs.
You know what? I freaking loved them. I loved the moment that they were introduced. I was like, that's freaking clever, because literally they have eyes on everyone.
But they are machine gun toting Rastafarian eyeballs.
Yes. Love it.
Let me say that sentence again to make sure that my brain has not disconnected from my mouth. They are machine gun toting Rastafarian eyeballs.
Love it. I am here for it. 1000%. They were so funny.
I'm going to need therapy when we finally run this podcast into the ground, because I have seen things.
Mostly from this movie.
I have seen things that should not be seen by things that are used to be seen. Oh, crap. What is wrong with me here? I can't believe we have a Larry Bud Melman cameo in this, but we have a Larry Bud Melman cameo in this. But we also have some namers in here that I'm surprised. Like, how the did they get Morgan Fairchild to be a Pan Am stewardess in this film? Like, seriously, you talk about like a really small cameo role. Morgan freaking Fairchild. The fact that they got her in here, I don't know how. Like, did they not show her the script? But then you have the running narrative of the film, which is this like 90s talk show era interview as hosted by Brooke Shields as Sky Daly. Your thoughts?
This, you know what? I almost forgot midway through the movie when they jumped back to the live studio taping of the show. I was like, oh, yeah. It was almost like you forget that it kind of brings it back to reality.
Yeah.
And you just get so wrapped up in this fantastical freak show world that it's like, no, there's actually a reality at the end of the day.
It's very, very Princess Bride-esque having this interview segment kind of go along, because every now and then they take a break and then go back to the bedroom where Fred Savage is being read to the story by Peter Falk. It's like, oh yeah, this is actually a story being read to a kid at bedtime as opposed to a fantasy tale. But it's a fantasy tale within a fantasy tale. Like it kind of feels like that a little bit.
It's so clever. Yeah.
But then, and this is where I warn listeners that I'm about to drop a major plot point here. So if at this point you are still thinking of watching the movie Freaked, please pause the show, go watch the film, and come back when you're done. You good? Okay.
Haven't we spoiled enough?
Well, we're going to spoil. Well, it's no longer a spoil now, because clearly all of our listeners have gone and watched the film. So, you feeling okay, people? You feeling okay? So Brooke Shields is the end result of the genetic mutation of Randy Quaid. So is the movie saying that Brooke Shields is in and of herself a genetic freak? Because we're talking Brooke Shields here. But it was one of those, like, you had to end the movie somehow. Somehow, some way. Because this film throws a lot at you. It does. It throws a lot at you. In watching this, though, the film really felt like a lot of style over substance. So in watching this, at some point, did you feel like you were getting like way sensory overload?
Only the opening. That was intense to watch.
I feel like I should put a disclaimer on this movie right now, because they don't, in that there is the possibility that if you suffer from seizures, this opening credit sequence may actually be triggering.
It is quite light sensitive. A lot of flashing,
Yeah.
a lot of not just flashing, but the strobe effect to the image on the screen. Not only that, and really heavy title track as well that they led with.
Yeah, as done by Henry Rollins, which that just tells you it's 1993. But yeah, I don't suffer from seizures, and I was getting nauseous a little bit watching the opening credits. Like it is a lot, and I do recognize that the 90s kind of hit differently. Like if you go back and watch like some of those old Ren and Stimpy cartoons and some of the stuff that was on MTV around then, and there was a whole ton of flashing and a whole lot of like just massive sensory overload in the 90s, and this really did kind of play into it. But the thing is, the camera angles were also there, and like the sight gags and the slapstick humor and whatnot, like it's all there, and it feels very much like a 1993 film. So as I ask this 31 years after the release of the film, stylistically, does it feel dated?
It's a good question, but I want to say no, because I think that a lot of the costumes and prosthetic
no.
Costumes was advanced.
The makeup stands the test of time, absolutely. But I'm talking about like the camera angles and some of the sight gags, and I mean definitely the opening credit sequence for sure. Like we grew up in the 90s, so I kind of knew what to expect once that opening credit sequence started happening. But I don't know, maybe because we grew up in that era that we're okay with it. Like I would be curious if you take someone who's like maybe in their, late teens, early 20s now, and you show them this film, I wonder if they're going to look at it and go, "What is this?"
Well, you know what? Wasn't it Miss Marvel? Kind of came out with the same kind of opening, and it was almost like an homage
nowhere
to
near nothing like that. No.
Well, it was very comic and art. Maybe not enough.
Not as rapid fire as the opening of this. Like yes, but even Secret Invasion too, with that very AI generated type opening, and you see a lot of that now. Like I see some bands that are putting out music videos that are all AI generated. And some of the weirdness in the motion, I could see people looking at some of those music videos now and actually seeing a correlation to some of the weird avant-garde styles that 1993 brought to us.
It was kind of like the Max Headroom generation, and then
that was the 80s. But yeah,
UHF,
but even then, it was very much the loud, noisy, in-your-face, you cannot ignore us kind of filmmaking that. Yes, maybe was of its time, but
Beavis and Butthead opening.
Very much so, yeah. And yeah, you could easily point. It's almost like the kind of stuff that was actually talked about in the movie Reality Bites, as opposed to like this is the film that kind of was made out of it. Almost it feels like, but yeah, no, like it's. And even those openings to some of those old reality type shows, they kind of felt like that kind of crazy and that kind of rapid fire sensory overload kind of montagey kind of feel.
Like the opening to You Can't Do That on Television.
Not even that was a lot more dialed back than this, but still
the same idea. You've got like all of these images and people coming out of the top of someone's head again.
Yeah.
Like
it's an out there kind of film with a lot of cantilevered camera angles and rapid fire, like in your face kind of montage type cuts and fantastic effects works. And maybe it is a little style over substance, but if you're into that, then it's not a bad thing. But now that we've come to the end of our show, it is time to find your MVP. So, Carrie, who stepped up and stole the show in 1993's Freaked?
Oh my God. Well, all the actors were so fantastic, but I think my favorite performance, again, I'm going to go with Randy Quaid because he was just so damn good at being so damn out there. and there was just something about this performance that it was like the perfect level of I guess ringmaster to this freak world. And it was, he was it was almost like he was the visionary and assigning, like he really was. He was assigning these personalities to the different freaks. I mean, I know he had like, it was almost like a dial or a list of the different options that the goo could create.
Yeah. It's very much like the PG-13 and what the human centipede would become. It's kind of what it feels like.
Oh, no.
Oh, went there. So my MVP is actually 3 MVPs, but we haven't actually mentioned their names yet. So bear with me here. Tony Gardner, Steve Johnson, and Screaming Mad George, and their respective various makeup effects teams. So they actually used 3 different effects companies to put together all the prosthetics and the makeup effects for this team. Tony Gardner, Steve Johnson, and Screaming Mad George were the heads of those companies. And considering the number of awards that they were nominated for those effects, it feels right that the effects teams are definitely my MVP of Freaked. And I think justly so.
Can I ask you, though, as a musician, musically, do you feel like the soundtrack helped to kind of, it suited the story?
I mean, I don't know if I would say it suited the story. It definitely fit the style of filmmaking. It definitely fit the era. Like, you are leaning heavily on Henry Rollins and a band called Blind Idiot God, and of course the Butthole Surfers. So hells yeah. You also had some work from Parliament Funkadelic in there as well. So I mean, it's a very 1993 soundtrack, and I think it fit perfectly. I don't know really many other bands at that time who would have fit. I mean, maybe Faith No More would have been perfect for that soundtrack, but I mean, with the Butthole Surfers and Henry Rollins, you're okay. You're in good hands. I don't know if it's a soundtrack I would have gone out and bought in 1993, but I think it was the right soundtrack for the film. Carrie, thank you so much for this. And to you, our listeners, well, you guys know the drill. If there is a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or is just so bad that there's no way in a freak show that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on social media at NotThatBadcast or go to our website at NotThatBadcast.com. And while you are there, brace yourself because we are getting ready for our end of the year specials here on It's Not That Bad, and over on our music show, There Can Only Be One. So be ready. We're closing out 2024 in style. Until next time, she's Carrie. I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is It's Not That Bad, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.